Hello and welcome to lesson 27 in this Chess Beginner to Winner series. And today I'll be talking about 30 tips on how to avoid chess blunders. So I'd like to ask you, how often do you have blunders? And when you have problems with these chess blunders, what do you do to try and improve it? So what have you done out there to try and fix a blunder problem when you're blundering more often than normal? I guess the bad news is that everybody blunders, and the good news is you're not alone. So grandmasters, all the way down to beginners blunder. It's just that more experienced players don't blunder as often. I played in my last video a game that should have been an easy draw at the end, and I just had a blunder in time trouble and lost a drawn game. So that encouraged me to just get on the internet, do some research, and I found about 30 or more tips on how to avoid blunders in chess. So let's take a look at these. Now I have a puzzle up here that you can take a look at if you haven't been already. And I'll use these chess puzzles to help explain how you can use these tips to help avoid blunders. So the first tip is, now I looked these up from different websites all over, and here's what I came up with. One tip here is identify threats and check for forcing moves. So identify threats and check for forcing moves. So if we look at this puzzle here, if this was a game and white had just moved his knight here to c3, well, we would ask ourselves, okay, my opponent just moved. Is there any threat? And a good way to do that is ask yourself, first of all, is my king under attack? So it looks like he just moved his knight. Does that endanger my king in any way? It doesn't look like it. So there is a bishop here that could attack my pawn and check the king, or a check over here, but they seem to be covered by this knight. So anyway, when you're identifying threats, check your king first, check for king safety, then check your pieces and make sure none of them are just unprotected and hanging. So we do have a couple unprotected pieces, looks like 3 of them here, but nothing is attacking them immediately. Now we do have a rook under attack here, so there's a threat that we might have to worry about, a rook under attack. So with identifying threats, you also want to check for forcing moves as well. So after you check for king safety, piece safety, and then pawn safety, just also check and make sure none of your pawns can be picked off. This one could be on f7, but the king and the knight are both protecting that. So it looks like the biggest threat is maybe this rook under attack by the bishop. So then after you kind of look at your threats, the threats that your opponent has, on your pieces, check their pieces as well. King, pieces, pawns, just see if you have any threats against them. So is there any way you can go after their king in this position? It looks like you could check them, I don't know, here on d3 or f3. Now, the pawn covers f3, but here, maybe on this right here, d3, you may be able to jump in there with your knight because your bishop is covering that. So the idea is, once you've made sure that you're safe, checking king, pieces, and pawns, then you can look at your opponent's pieces, his king, his pieces, and pawns, and see if you have any threats, any attacks that you can play on them. So Also, you want to check for forcing moves. So the most forcing moves are checks or attacks on the queen, or just, I guess, in order of what's most important. The king would be first, then the queen, then the pieces, and then the pawns. So, what can black do here? Maybe we have a check here. Then the king would have to move. It would break this pin. So maybe we just attack here first. Attacking the knight, capturing with the bishop, putting the king in check. And then they would most likely capture here because they're under check. Then we could maybe jump forward here and check. So that looks to be what I would play here. So let's try that. So we capture, then we can check the king. They have to run, and now we can pick this off. So it looks like that was the correct answer. All right, so back to the first tip. Identify threats. So check your king, pieces, and pawns. Make sure they're safe. Then check your opponent's king, pieces, and pawns to see if they've blundered anything. Because blunders, of course, go both ways. You also want to avoid your blunders, but check for your opponent to see if they made a blunder. And check forcing moves. So identifying threats and checking forcing moves, they kind of go hand in hand. All right, so let's move on to tip number 2. Do a tactics check. And when you're doing a tactics check, a good way to check for tactics is look for unprotected pieces. So let's move on to the next problem here. All right, so we're doing a tactics check. White has just moved here. So we have to look at the threat. We're put in check here. Our king, or black's king, is in check. So that's the immediate tactic to look for, is a literal tactics check. The bishop is checking our king. So what are our options? Well, we could capture this bishop. We could block with our pawn. So anytime your king is in check, you have to run, block, or capture the attacker. So one of the most important things in preventing blunders is to check for king safety, because an unexpected check or attack on your king can just cause all kinds of problems and devastate your position even if you were winning. So you definitely have to watch out for that. All right, and this is a forcing move, which we talked about in the first tip. So what should we do here? We're doing a tactics check, and we're looking for unprotected pieces. So it looks like all of our pieces are protected here. Our king needs to be protected because it's in check. So our king is not protected. Our pieces are all protected. Our pawns are all protected. What do they have? They have an unprotected rook. So it looks like all of their pieces are unprotected. So we might be able to take advantage of that. But first we have to deal with this check. So what is the best option here? Well, probably just to capture. But we have to watch out because of that. Because of the queen being able to move up here and check us and then take our rook. So let's see, if we do a tactics check, hopefully we would find that if we would take this bishop and we do a tactics check on the position after we have moved that piece, we'll find that there's a fork here. The queen could drop back, check us, and then pick off our rook that would capture over here. So the best option might be maybe to go ahead and block here. So then we block and attack and renew this threat of picking off this piece. So what would we have to watch out for if we did that? They could possibly attack us again. All right, so this is getting a little bit tricky, but it looks like our options are to block with this pawn or run. So what should we do? We can't run here. We don't want to run. Well, we can't run forward. We could only run here to e7. But then the queen could maybe attack us again. We would have to run down here. It looks best to just go ahead and attack this bishop. And then if they check us with the queen, we move over here, they could check us again. I don't know. We could run into a lot of problems. They could just start checking us all over the board. All right, I don't know. I'm going to do this, and that's not what they wanted. All right, so let's go back. So they probably wanted us to run here. No, they didn't want that either. Okay. All right, well, maybe they want us to go ahead and allow this fork. You know, I wouldn't think, well, I don't even see anything else. That looks to be the only option, is to capture there. Now see, this tactics check prevented me from, doing this, because now I just have to move. All right, I don't know. This doesn't look too good. Oh, I guess we could move up here and protect it. Okay. Well, then what? We just pick this off? Okay, this was pretty difficult. Pretty difficult. Oh my gosh. Yeah, this is pretty crazy. I guess we could block that way. All right, that was a tough one. So if we would have looked deeper in the position when we were doing a tactics check and looking at the unprotected pieces, that may have helped. All right, so back to review. The first tip was to identify threats. Look at your king pieces and pawns and your opponents. Make sure they're protected. Check for forcing moves, so any checks against your king, which is what we just had in this puzzle. So the second tip is to do a tactics check, and when you're doing that, look for any unprotected pieces, because that's an easy way to blunder, is to just have an unprotected piece that can get picked off. It's harder to pick off a piece when it's protected, and then it can recapture the attacker. All right. So tip number 3 is don't assume. So in this position, I assumed that that would have been a bad move to let that queen, to capture with my rook and then let the queen fork my king and my rook, but I didn't look deep enough into the position. So that will just improve your calculation ability with more play and practice. All right, so don't assume that your first instinct is correct. You have to do a little bit of calculation. All right, so tip number 4 is, this ties right into that, calculate. Avoid instinctual moves. So you want to make sure you do a little bit of calculation to double check everything. That's going to be harder in quicker games. So practice longer, slower games, and that should slowly improve your overall play because you take your time and you'll be able to avoid more blunders. All right, so let's look at the next problem here. Okay, a rook has just captured here. So black has two rooks. We have one rook and two pawns. But it looks like this pawn is about to promote. So how can we go ahead and speed up the promotion of this pawn? All right, well, what is the next tip here? So tip number 4 was to calculate and avoid instinctual moves. So we need to do a little bit of calculation here. And tip number 5 is look for opponent's best response. So once we decide on our move, we have to look for the best response that our opponent could play, and that'll really cut down on a lot of blunders. So I'm thinking that rook to b8 here, attacking their king with check and vacating this promotion square, we'll be able to check the king and then move our pawn forward and promote. So, of course, once we check, they're going to have to move, and we need to look for their best response. Oh, I don't know, probably moving their king somewhere where once this pawn promotes, it won't check the king. So we move here, check, the king moves over, we promote, and then we're going to have to watch out because they are going to be able to start checking us with these rooks. But I think our extra queen should be able to help us. All right, so let's check. Then, do we promote now, or is there any reason to wait? It looks like an immediate promotion would be good, but then we're going to have to worry about a lot of checks. But I think our queen should be able to help us. But would it be better to check first? Check the king again. Well, this might be wrong. I need to calculate more, but let's hurry this video up and I'll just promote. Okay, that's what it wanted. All right, well, now we probably pretty much just have to capture there. Oh, and here we have to be careful because they might go for a draw. So we have to move away to avoid a draw. But here we're still winning. All right, so that's where the calculation comes in. Look for opponent's best response. You have to do some calculation. All right, so the first 5 tips. And I really encourage you to leave a comment and basically tell me how you try to avoid blunders. What have you done to avoid blunders in the past? Do you have a little routine that helps you avoid blunders? What advice would you give to other players? Because I think if you leave a comment, it's interesting to hear your answer, but I think it will help a lot of other chess players out there because blunders, pretty much everybody suffers from a blunder problem at one time or another in their chess playing career or over their time playing chess. All right, so a recap. Number 1 was identify threats and check for forcing moves. Make sure your king, pieces, and pawns are safe. Check for the safety of your opponent's king, pieces, and pawns. Do a tactics check is number 2. And doing a tactic check involves looking for any unprotected pieces, seeing if there's any tactics against the king. Look for pins, forks, skewers, any kind of tactical possibilities. Number 3 is don't assume. So don't assume that your opponent is making the best move. He may have made a blunder. And so tip number 4 is to calculate. You might have to do a little extra calculation, avoid instinctual quick moves, because that's where a lot of blunders can happen. So just remember to calculate. Tip number 5, look for opponent's best response. So before you make a move, think in your head, all right, if I move my piece to this square, what is the best response that my opponent could make? And you might find that you avoid a blunder, especially if there's a surprise check or a surprise attack on an unprotected piece. All right, so tip number 6 is do tactics puzzles and practice checkmate patterns in puzzles. So, that's what we're doing here. Let's move on to the next puzzle. So the white king was in check by black's knight here and moved, attacking this knight. But of course, let's see, the knight is protected by the queen, and it's black's turn. What can black do here? Well, what does black have? Black could just pick off this with check. So if we do a tactics check, check for king safety first, we could fork here, attacking the king and the rook. If they pick us off, our queen would capture. But then what do we have? Is there anything? So let's practice the, what tip was that? Look for the opponent's best response, number 5. So if we decide to capture here, what is the best response? They're in check, so the king either has to run, the king has to block, which is not possible with a knight, or capture the attacker. So I don't know. This looks good here. And we also have to look, once we capture, do they have some kind of attack against us? Well, they'll be in check, so they have to take care of that. So I would think that would be the best move. But do we have a better move? Maybe checking with our queen here, forcing the king to run. If he goes here, we could mate him. If he goes up here, he could just block with the bishop. So I don't know if I like that, because if he blocks with the bishop, I don't know. It looks like that, and it doesn't like that. So we calculated wrong. All right, let's go back. Maybe it does want this move. All right, that's what it wanted. So, what do we have next here? Well, do we move this knight and then check and run him into the corner here? I don't know. Or we just attack from here, but then he could run down into this spot. If we move there, he could capture en passant. That kind of opens our king up a little. If we go there, the rook captures. We push forward. I don't know. Maybe they don't like that. So I'm just doing a bad job on this one. Doesn't like that. All right. I am not finding this answer here. We go there, they capture. I don't know. I just don't. I mean, I guess they want this. Okay, why would he do that? Why would he go that way? All right. Well, now we just attack with the pawn. He has one square he can go to. Is that the best move? It looks like he'll escape out this way. All right, do we attack again? Just keep attacking. Maybe we pick this pawn off? Nope. Man, I'm just not finding the right moves here. It doesn't like any of these moves. Do we go up there? No. All right, we just keep attacking that way. And we go there. All right, well, that was a tough one. So let's get on with this. We stopped at number 5 was look for the opponent's best response. So once you're getting ready to make a move, look for their best response. Number 6 is do tactics puzzles and look for practice checkmating patterns. So daily chess tactics and puzzles practice will definitely make a difference when it comes to blunders, because the more experience you get playing, the better you get, you'll slowly reduce the number of blunders. So that'll definitely make a big difference. All right, so number 7 was learn defense. So a lot of times you're so worried about offense, attacking your opponent, and you're worried about what your plans are, that you neglect what your opponent is doing, and that can leave you wide open to a counterattack or blundering away a piece or some other problem. All right, so let's look at the next problem here. The king is just captured here and jumped out into the center, it looks like. Why would the king do that? So we want to check for king safety. So learn defense. Maybe better defense, I don't know, would it have been to capture with the knight here instead and attack the queen? So let's see if we can take advantage of this move. I would say we could go here with our bishop or our queen. If our queen jumps in here, he can just go back up to f2. So the obvious move is just g4 here. The king will have to move. And the king will have to go forward. Then we could have a discovered attack by moving our bishop away and attacking the queen and trying to go after his queen, because it'll be a discovered check. So that looks like the best move so far, unless there's something different. What if we check them here? So bishop to e4, check. They will have to retreat back to here. And I don't really see a follow-up there, because if we try, let's see, well, maybe our knight can, no. All right, well, if bishop to e4, they retreat back. If our queen tries to check, they can block with the knight. So I'm not seeing a good follow-up. So maybe that. All right, and that's the move it wanted, because now they have to move forward, and then we can use a discovered attack by bringing our our bishop up here to d1 and capture their queen, because the king having to move forward to f4 or e4, it looks like. Once we move the bishop, the queen will have a discovered check. All right, so Do tactics puzzles and practice checkmating patterns. That was number 6. Number 7 is learn defense. So here, the king maybe should have tried better defense, maybe capture with this knight instead, to avoid getting into this attack, and being stuck with a crazy attack on the king. So definitely learn defense. Don't always try and attack. That's fine to get your opponent on the run, but also look to see what they are doing and if they have any counter threats. Next, number 8 is do a safety check, which we kind of covered already. King, pieces, and pawns. So you can kind of get into a little routine and check for king safety first. So let's do the next problem here. All right, the rook just moved here. It's black's turn. So first we want to ask what this move did here. Why did they move here? Well, they were under attack by the bishop. So now we want to look at our king. Is our king safe? Well, the rook cannot attack the king yet. It's lined up on the king. If the center opened up, it could be a threat. Can anything else attack our king? The queen or the bishop to b5, but our pawn is covering that. If the bishop was sacrificed, the pawn captures, the queen captures with check, what could they do then? I don't know, maybe just pick this pawn off, but then they would be down 2 pawns for a bishop. So that doesn't look like the best thing. All right, so our king looks pretty safe here. Maybe we need to castle, but we could castle into this open or half open file here, and that could be a danger possibly in the future. King looks safe. What about our pieces? Do we have any unprotected pieces? Well, this bishop's unprotected. I don't see any attack coming on that bishop. Maybe their bishop could attack ours, but we could capture possibly or retreat. Let's see. So our pieces look safe. Our king looks safe. Now our pawns. This pawn is under attack on d6, but protected by the queen. Here's an unprotected pawn here, so we may want to do something about that. We could retreat back here. We could ignore that and look for an attack on their king. So maybe do we have an attack if we jump this knight away? If we jump this knight to h5, allowing our queen to jump up here with check and threaten a mate up here on g2. Well, while we're moving our knight, they could possibly just retreat back here with their bishop. So then if we move up and check with our queen, the king could just move over. Well, then we could threaten to go here maybe and attack. I don't know. This looks tricky, and this is where the calculation is involved. So the more you play, hopefully the better your calculation will improve, and you'll be able to figure out what moves work and what don't, and that will definitely help you avoid blunders. So I'm thinking move the knight over here to h5, then bring the queen up, but they'll probably block here. So if they block, move their bishop up here and help cover this. What if... I don't know. This looks like the best plan, but I should calculate a little bit better. So knight to h5. The bishop will retreat up here. We move our queen to g5 with check. The king, they can't block or with some immediate mate, so they'll have to move over. Well, then, can our knight do anything? It's tricky. All right, well, knight moves. Bishop to f1. Queen check. King goes into the corner. How do we proceed afterwards? Well, our knight is here. What if our knight jumps here? All right, I'm going to go for it. And they don't like that. So that was not the move they were looking for. All right, I'm just having a rough time on these puzzles today. So what else do we see? Do we protect this pawn? Is there a way to trap their queen? If we attack, they could move. We could attack with our bishop. Nope, they don't like that either. Maybe we have to do something more immediate. If we go there, they could just capture with the rook. You know, and then if we go here, they could block with the rook. All right, I don't know. I'm not seeing anything too great here. What's the material look like? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pawns versus 7. They have the bishop pair. I don't know. Maybe there's a threat. Of moving the bishop back, cutting off the queen. Do they just want us to protect this pawn? What? Oh, we threatened the queen. Well, maybe. That was it. So I had the right idea. I just went the wrong way about it. So then we threaten mate and we can pick their queen off. All right, well, that's where the calculation comes in. Okay, so where were we at here? 7 was learn defense. 8 was safety checks. Check for king safety, piece safety, and pawn safety. Then look at your opponent's king, pieces, and pawns and just see if they're leaving anything vulnerable to an attack. Number 9, play longer games and avoid blitz games. So blitz games are great to practice an opening, to have fun. I won't say completely cut out blitz games, especially if you really enjoy the fast-paced action of blitz games, and they are pretty fun. But if you want to try and make improvements, I would definitely focus on longer, slower games. And the longer the better. If you could play a game that takes an hour, some people get really bored with that or don't like those long games. But in longer, slower games, you really have more time to sit there and calculate and figure things out. And you can work on a routine that will help you avoid blunders, especially doing tactics checks, looking for unprotected pieces, checking for king safety, piece safety, pawn safety, and asking, once I make this move, what will be my opponent's best response? All right, so play longer games, avoid blitz. That's number 9. Number 10 is visualize the position after your move. So a lot of these recommendations and these tips are kind of tied together. So before you make a move, in your head, visualize. So let's move on to the next problem, and we can use that as an example. So they just move here to protect the rook, maybe. Maybe let their queen out, or let the rook move over here and attack our queen. So either way, maybe that keeps this pawn protected by the pawn behind it. It allows the queen a little more mobility. So number 10 was visualize the position after your move. So it's white's turn here. We have to find a move. So let's say the move that we want is the queen capturing this pawn. So if we look at king safety, first we check to see if our king is safe. Well, it looks pretty safe. There is this possibility of a check here. So that could be an issue. And a check over here. So, number 10, visualize the position after your move. So this will be very important here. If we decide to capture with the queen, before we make that move, we want to visualize the position after the move. So once our queen captures this f7 pawn, what happens next? After the queen is up there, what can black do? Well, because it's a move that checks the king, they only have one option, and that is to move into the corner here. So, then how do we follow up with that? Let's see. Well, or we could also look at this move. Should we capture here? Well, that probably wouldn't be good because, I don't know, they have an option of checking us. Then our queen might have to move, and then our rook would be unprotected. So right now, it looks like the best option is to just capture with check here and, possibly chase their king. The king would have to go into the corner. Then what do? Do we move forward here? Or do we could move to f8 or f6 and check again, but they could capture, and then we would have to recapture with our rook. Then the king could come out of the corner and attack our rook. If we went up here to f8, the rook would be up here. Maybe the rook could move over here, protect this pawn. I don't know. It just doesn't look like any big advantage there. So, what else? Capture. The king has to go into the corner. What are our options? Well, if we keep them trapped in that corner, what can we do next? Anyway, before the video goes on too long, let's just try this. And I'm just not sure what the follow-up is. We could move here with a check, but they would trade off and our rook would have to recapture. And then our opponent could run down here and check us. Our opponent could go after this pawn maybe. He would have a passed pawn over here on the queen side. That could maybe be a problem at some point. But we have this pawn that could move forward And then we could possibly attack here. Oh, but that wouldn't work because the rook could move down here to b1, checking our king, and the bishop and the rook would both be piling up. But we would have our rook here. All right, well, I don't know. It's looking difficult to find an advantage. Their king would really be cut off over here. You know, if we go here, queen to f8, capture, rook checks, the king would attack us, but then, you know, what do we do? Do we move down here? I don't know. It is not looking too spectacular. Is there any kind of attack that I'm missing? All right, well, before the video goes on even longer, I apologize here. Let's try, I don't know, that. Nope, they don't like that. Let's try that. They don't like either one of those. So there's something we're missing here. What kind of move are we missing? Oh, we just threaten a mate. Like that, maybe. Because we're threatening to go here and mate them, and they'd have to give up their queen. All right, well, calculation. I haven't done these puzzles in a while, at least this type of puzzle. I've been trying some other puzzles to help improve, but it looks like I need to work on them some more. All right, let's get back to this list. Number 10 was visualize the position after your move. Number 11 is ask why the opponent made the move. So let's move on to the next problem. The queen just captured up here on f4. So let's ask why they made that move. Well, to capture something, it looks like. That's the first, obvious choice. So what else does that move do? I don't see it doing too much else. And it looks like we have an attack on their king here. So how do we take advantage of that attack? It looks like, well, so another reason the queen could have moved there is to block. So if we captured on h7 and the king captured, it would be forced to. Then we moved our queen over here with check. The queen could block that check. Otherwise, it might be mate. So what's our other option? If we tried to capture up here, the rook would capture. Then if we captured, they could capture again. All right, another option might be moving up to the 7th rank and threatening to capture that way. Or what if we just did that? What if we just captured and then we followed up with this move? There'd be no way to block it. So that might be the option. So capture on h7. Now we go up this way like that. They try to block, but we capture. And if they go up into the corner, it's just mate. If they go down here, we check. Oh, and then we can go to here and mate. Queen to g6. All right, so ask why your opponent made the move. So we could try that again. Why did my opponent move this pawn forward? Well, maybe to try and break open the king side protective pawns here. Attack here. We could capture there, which looks best. So what is number... we did number 10, visualize the position after your move. Number 11, ask why the opponent made the move. And number 12, analyze your games afterwards. So that's a very important one. If after every game you go back and analyze the game, go back over the game and see if you made a blunder, how you can avoid that blunder in the future and prevent it from happening again. Kind of burn that blunder into your memory, and hopefully you try not to do that again. So if you make that blunder once, just chalk it up to a learning experience, but you don't want to make the same blunder repeatedly. And by analyzing your games and finding out what you're doing wrong, that can make a huge difference and help avoid blunders. All right, number 13, review blunder screenshots. So if you have a horrible blunder, and you could do this with anything that you want to improve on in chess, take a picture on your phone of the screen or the board, whatever it is, especially if it's a blunder or an opening you're trying to learn, and just review those pictures. Go over the screenshots or the pictures a little bit each day, and then they'll slowly get burned into your memory. So that might be a good way to help you improve and remember what to do or what not to do if it's a blunder in that case. All right, so number 14, develop a move routine. So, there's all different routines that you can come up with. You'll have to figure out what works for you. But one example is your opponent makes a move. So ask yourself why. Why did they make that move? Well, they're attacking this pawn. They're attacking this pawn. It gives the rook maybe a little bit of scope. But it looks like an attack here with the bishop, the pawn, the queen, all trying to line up here and kind of break into the king side. So if you think you know why your opponent made the move, well, look at the threats. Is your king safe? Well, if they capture here, your king could be in a little bit of danger. It'll have to move away. You don't want to recapture with the rook. So, your king is under a little bit of pressure here. So you probably, unless there's a better move, you probably have to capture with this D pawn here and just go after this attacking pawn. So, ask why your opponent made the move. Then once you think you have a decent answer, ask yourself, is my king safe? Are all my pieces safe? Are there any unprotected pieces? So that's part of a blunder check as well, or a tactics check, both of them. Unprotected pieces can cause you problems. So we have an unprotected rook, but I don't see anything attacking that immediately. And then your pawns. So we have this unprotected pawn under attack. We have this pawn under attack. We have an unprotected pawn over here. So, there's a few things going on. So, once you've asked yourself, is my king pieces and pawns safe? They may or may not be, and then that could factor into your decision making. Then, look and see if your opponent's king pieces and pawns are safe. Is there a way to get at his king? Well, doesn't look like it. The queen is protecting this. You're kind of lined up here. The bishop is aimed in that direction, but not doing much at the moment, and your rooks aren't either. So, I don't know. The obvious move looks like you just want to capture here. But, is there anything better? Capture. Maybe the rook captures that pawn. And then what? You ignore it and you go over here. I don't know. This looks like the obvious move, and it doesn't like that move. So I'm just on a losing streak on these puzzles. Would it be better to go this way? Oh, that capture. All right. So I should have done a better job checking for tactics. If we attack this way, we're attacking the bishop. Now the queen's under attack. We definitely need to... Oh, it doesn't like that. Okay, because they can just capture with check. So I guess, do we do that? Then they check us. Now what? Now we just move. Do we go this way? Maybe we go that way. Now we can capture. Then we capture, and we just come out a bishop ahead there. All right, so once again, practice calculating, do puzzles and problems, because some of these tactics can be tricky. All right, so where were we? Analyze your games afterwards. That was number 12. Review Blunders screenshots. So take a picture of Blunders, and then review them and go over what you should have done or how you could have avoided that blunder, and just randomly take a look at those pictures, and it'll help burn that into your brain even better. All right, develop a move routine. So you have to figure out what routine works best for you. Ask why your opponent made the move. Check for piece safety, king, pieces, pawns, yours, then your opponent's. Do a tactics check, look for unprotected pieces, and so on. All right. Now, here's another one, number 15. Check candidate square safety. So, checking for candidate square safety. That's a very good piece of advice. So we'll move on to the next problem here. They push their pawn forward, trying to make a run for it here and promote this pawn. So now, what do we do here? Well, one choice may be to push this pawn forward and attack the queen. And then we're also threatening to attack, capture this pawn and run our pawn up here and promote. So, if we want to check the candidate square for safety, well, this is the candidate square, e6. And we have to check the tactics here and make sure they work. So if we want to go to e6, no, it's not safe there because this pawn can just pick us off. But we do have a tactic. This unprotected piece here. So we could move forward. If they capture us, capture our pawn, we'll get their queen. Now, they could also capture here, and then we would capture. If they capture, we capture, and we'll have that extra bishop, that we'll probably have to use to stop these pawns over here. But this looks to be the best move. Unless there's something else I'm missing. So we'll just go there. Oh, I'm missing something again. So I'm on a losing streak on these puzzles today. Looks like I need to start a puzzle series and get back to work on these. Well, what would be better here? Maybe we threaten mate. Threaten a mate in 1 here. Something like this. So we're threatening mate here. So now we just get their queen, and now we're just really winning. All right, well, I overlooked that tactic. So that just proves you have to study tactics to be able to catch this stuff. All right, so check candidate square safety. That was number 15. Number 16 is improve your overall chess. So, that's pretty obvious. And the article I read about that basically talked about in your first 100 games in chess ever, you're going to make a lot of blunders, of course. But your next 100 games, the 100 games after that, you're slowly going to improve. And as you improve, you'll make less blunders as you become better, of course. So this is pretty obvious. If you improve your overall chess, you'll also be able to see a lot more. And you'll know what moves work and what don't a lot more often. So, that's why, of course, chess masters make a lot less blunders, because they learn over time what moves work and what don't. And as they improve their overall chess ability, they'll make more better moves more often. And, of course, blunder less. All right. Number 17. Don't play tired. Okay, that's another obvious one. If you're playing chess, late into the night and you're playing when you're tired, you're just not going to play as well as if you play when you're rested. Because when you play rested, your brain is fresh. You're not worn out. You're going to think more clearly. So just try to avoid playing when you're tired. All right, number 18, warm up before your game of chess. And it says to do that with puzzles. Play the computer, maybe a quick blitz game or 10-minute game, something to get you warmed up and thinking about chess and, get your brain in the right mindset. But definitely practicing with puzzles. I've also read numerous articles and books saying how chess masters and grandmasters, if they're getting ready for a tournament, they'll have a routine, like a pre-tournament routine. And a lot of them will maybe solve some easy puzzles, because it's a warm-up. You're not trying to wear yourself out like with some of these puzzles I just had here today. So you want to do like some quick warm-up puzzles to just get your brain going. All right, so number 19. This one goes both ways. So number 19 is play more or play less. So another obvious one. If you play more chess more often, you're going to get more experience. And you'll improve as you learn more and more from each game, especially if you're analyzing those games afterwards and figuring out, even if it's one improvement you can make after each game, that adds up over time. Now, on the other end, if you're playing too much chess, especially if you play blitz chess for hours straight, which I've been guilty of that before, where you kind of get sucked into it. Next thing you know, you played a couple hours of chess straight and your brain feels like it's going to melt down. So play more chess or play less chess. And you'll just have to figure that out. If you're tired, maybe take a break for a little while, or even for a couple days if you've been playing a lot of chess nonstop. But if you play chess regularly, that should also help your chess improve. All right, number 20. Focus, concentrate, avoid distractions. So this is a very important one. So let's move on to the next problem. You have to focus. So I came across an interesting article about Jose Capablanca, the third official world chess champion. He was playing in a tournament and he was doing fine in the game. And the story goes that a beautiful woman walked into the playing hall and she caught his attention, of course, and he looks over at her and he gets distracted. It breaks his concentration and he plays his move, and then he gets up and goes to take a break or get some water, and he comes back and realized because he was distracted and his concentration had been broken, that he made a blunder. So that just goes to show that even the best players in the world make a blunder. He played a move that left himself open to losing a piece, and he resigned, maybe a few moves after that. All right, so where were we at here? Number 20 was focus, concentrate, avoid distraction. And, that's something you just have to work at. Try to focus on the board. If you're in a tournament, maybe avoid walking around and looking at other people's positions, because then you may be thinking about that position and not yours, when maybe it would be best to spend your time really focusing on your game and not distracting yourself with other games. All right, what is number 21? Number 21 is to stay calm. So this is an interesting one. If you make a blunder, of course, you want to stay calm, because most often you make another blunder or another mistake after your first one because you get so frustrated and upset that you're more likely to just make another mistake on top of it. Now, depending what playing level you're at, if you make a blunder, I came across an interesting statistic that claimed it's possible to avoid losing the game in 3 out of 10 times. So about 30% of the time after a blunder, you may be able to come back and get a draw, avoid a loss. But, usually when you make a blunder, it's going to be a game-ending blunder. But the most important thing to do is to remain calm. And also, try and stay calm during the game to avoid blunders, because our brains think more clearly when we're more calm. Boxers sometimes will try and anger their opponent and get them frustrated, and then it's easier for them to attack and go after that frustrated opponent, because you kind of lure them in. They get angry and they try and come after you, and you might be able to deliver, a serious blow as they're moving in because they're frustrated and angry. So that works in chess as well. Just try to stay calm and avoid getting too distressed or angry or upset, and hopefully that'll help you play better. All right, so number 22, pressure is only in your mind. So this was an interesting one that I came across. If you think about it, a lot of times the pressure of winning a chess game is mostly what we put on ourselves. We only allow as much pressure as we let ourselves be consumed by. So, you just probably have to work on that one. Just try and not let pressure get to you, and you'll play better. Probably avoid blunders. You won't have as many blunders if you can work on not letting the pressure get to you. And don't allow all that pressure to enter your mind and affect you. And that just comes with practice. And, I know that can be difficult, especially if the clock is ticking down, which I found out in my video yesterday, and had a blunder at the end that lost the game for me. All right, so in this problem, they moved to A4. So what do we do here? Do they have any unprotected pieces? It looks like a bishop over here. We have an attack going on their king. And let's see here. All right. I think we got this. Then we lure them in to the corner and mate. All right, so I got that puzzle at least after having trouble with those other ones. It says that was a 2466 rated puzzle. So I don't know. I guess that's good because I don't know if it should be rated that high. Maybe a 2466 was able to find that combination, and the hard part sometimes is setting up the tactical combinations. You might be able to find them if they show up on the board, but sometimes it's difficult to set them up. All right, where were we? So number 20 was focus, concentrate, avoid distractions. Number 21 was stay calm. A calm mind will think more clearly. Number 22, pressure is only in your mind. So you will only experience the amount of pressure that you let yourself experience, basically. So if you can stay in a calm and clear mind frame and avoid letting the pressure build up and affect you, that can make a difference and help you avoid blunders. All right, so number 23, don't relax too early in a position, especially if you think, oh, I'm winning. Or once again, the game I played yesterday, I was like, okay, this is an easy draw now, and I relaxed. Well, time contributed to that as well. I was running low on time and just blundered. So the game is not over till it's over. So focus until the very end, concentrate, and do not relax until you actually win or draw the game. All right, so number 24, stay positive and in a good mood. So if you try to stay upbeat, positive, in a good mood, you're just going to play better. If you're in a bad mood, it's more likely that you're going to have problems and just not play as well. So that's kind of self-explanatory. You don't want to be all in a terrible mood playing chess. You want to have fun and try to play well. All right, let's look at this next puzzle here. So the knight has just moved here, blocking this check. Okay, I guess that was his only option. He was in check by the rook, and the only thing to do was block here with this knight. All right, so what is the next one? Number 24 was stay positive and stay in a good mood. So number 25 is double check important moves and exchanges. So as you're playing a chess game, things might be kind of slow and boring. There might not be much going on, especially if there's no immediate tactics. But then at a certain point in the game, you'll feel the tension building, and the position might build up into an important point in the game that's going to make a difference. So, let's say this was it right here. Your opponent blocks your attack. You can just snatch up this knight. But you want to double check these moves because this could be a very important move in the game, and you want to double check that it's the best move. Because if you just capture here with check, what will they do next? It looks like the only thing that can be done is for the king. They can't block or capture. If your rook captures their knight, the king will have to move, and it looks like this is the only place to go. Right here. But then what do you do? What do you do after that? Do you have a continuation? So double check important moves, and especially when there are exchanges of material. That's when it's very important to check what the best move would be. All right, so we could just pick off this rook, but then the king will run. Now, would it be better to move our knight here and check, and then go after this knight with either the rook or the knight? It would give us more options. Or do we check by the knight capturing over here on b2? Or do we have something better? If we try and move this pawn up to cut off his escape, well, he could move his bishop and have an escape up that way. So it looks like we need to act immediately here and check the king in some way with our knight. Maybe the rook, but this rook capture looks too obvious. If we capture there, he's just going to run to here. If we check with the e-pawn, he could capture this pawn, then our knight is under attack, or he could run down here. What else do we have? What other options? All right, if the knight moves down here, checking, the king could just go here. We could check again. We just capture with check. He goes here. Maybe we cut off his escape here and threaten to go here. All right, so this is a tricky one, which requires some calculation. So rook captures on f3, check. Then what do? The king goes to d4. He could have an escape. Looks like this is the only immediate escape. Let's say we go here to cut him off, and then we threaten mate here. Well, what else could be done? I don't know. That might give him too much time. So capture with check. He has to run down to here. Do we immediately go here, forcing him to capture on d5? It looks like he would be able to run too far. Maybe we just need to move our king up. All right. Well, capture, king goes here. We move our king up and threaten a mate in 1. Will that work? All right, I guess that works. So now we're threatening a mate in 1 here. And what can they do to stop that? Doesn't look like much. Looks like nothing. Okay, anyway, let's get back to the list and finish this out. So, number 25 was double check important moves, especially when exchanges of pieces are involved. So, number 26 is don't underestimate your opponent or overestimate your opponent. So, moving on to the next problem here. So that can be an issue in a tournament if you're playing a lower rated opponent and you think, oh, I should have no problems in this game because they're a lot lower rated than me. Well, if you're not careful, you could be surprised. Maybe that player's improving and they play at a higher level than their rating. And also the opposite is, it counts, you can go the opposite way with that as well. So if you're playing a higher rated opponent, well, you just have to play the position. You can't be afraid and change your playing style trying to you don't want to worry too much about the higher rated opponent's higher rating because they could have a bad day. And when it comes to blunders, don't assume that your higher rated opponent is luring a trap by giving a piece away. They could have blundered as well because anybody can blunder. So you have to calculate a little bit. And that's where number 25 comes in again. Double check important moves, especially when exchanges are involved. So, a higher rated or a lower rated opponent. Don't underestimate them or overestimate them because everybody makes blunders, and you could benefit from a higher rated opponent just making a blunder. And on the same note, if you're playing a lower rated opponent, just watch out. Be on your guard. Don't walk into a blunder playing a lower rated opponent thinking, oh, this game should be easy to win. All right, number 27, exercise. So this is a very interesting one, and I've experienced this myself. When I was exercising more, I had some better chess games. So one reason that may be is extra oxygen being pumped into your body and through your brain. An oxygenated brain can work more efficiently than a brain that is not receiving as much oxygen. So regular exercise definitely can come into play in chess. Bobby Fischer, I believe, used to play tennis regularly. Magnus Carlsen, plays soccer or football, depending what area of the world you're from and what you call that. Who else? I think Gary Kasparov maybe used to lift weights and do other exercise. So exercising and physical stamina is very important, especially if you're playing a long game in a long tournament. You might be thankful that you did some physical exercise and you're in better shape. So exercising can be important, and that better if you're in better shape and you're thinking more clearly, that will help avoid blunders. So number 28, don't relax in the opening or in calm positions. So we kind of touched on that in one of the previous tips, but that definitely makes sense. Some people have lost games, or blundered in the opening or in positions that seem calm, where all of a sudden you just make a mistake and blunder a piece and then you're losing. So definitely be on your toes, or think and concentrate even when the game seems slow and boring, or if it's right in the opening, because you could get caught in an opening surprise. All right, number 29, calculate one move deeper. All right, that is a very good piece of advice, because that's happened to me where I was trying to calculate a problem in a game, a sequence of moves, and I just didn't calculate deep enough. One or two extra moves of thinking can make a big difference. So let's look at this problem. This knight has just moved up here. What do we have in this game? Well, we can't capture the knight, I don't think, or they will just capture with the bishop or the queen. Is there any kind of attack on the king? So look at the king. Any king attack? Any pieces? Well, they all look kind of protected. The pawns all look protected. We should double check our king. This bishop is kind of lined up on our king, but his own pawn is in the way. Our pieces are all protected. And our pawns, oh, this pawn is unprotected, but right now this one's in the way of the rook capturing it. All right, well, I don't see a whole lot here. Oh, okay, I may have found the answer to this one. So let's calculate and make sure we go, one move further than we might normally go. So I looked at this move, rook captures, and then the queen or the bishop captures. So if I capture, if the bishop captured, our bishop could develop here, attacking the queen and then maybe going after this rook. But if our rook captures and the queen captures, well, then we don't have that option anymore. So maybe a different move would be rook captures the bishop, the queen would capture, and then we attack the queen with the bishop, go after the rook, the queen would capture the rook, and if we think even deeper, then maybe our queen could capture their knight over here. All right, so I think we'll try that. Capture, attack, go after that. Now, if the queen captures our bishop, we pick off their knight. So it looks like that was the answer they were looking for. All right, so now, where were we here? 27 was exercise, because more oxygen in your brain makes for a healthier brain. You can build up more stamina and you won't be as tired in long tournaments or after long chess games. Number 28 was don't relax in the opening or calm positions, because you may be surprised by a tactic, or you could blunder because you think, oh, nothing's going on in this position. Number 29 was calculate one move deeper, which we saw that helps here, trying to calculate a little bit further. All right, let's go to the next problem. The king was in check and moved forward here. All right, so number 30 is keep playing after the blunder to learn. So that can help you avoid blunders in the future, because if you make a blunder, don't just quit immediately and give up. Now, I mentioned that 30% of the time you may be able to come back and pull a draw out even after a blunder. So there's that option as well, or that possibility. But if you keep playing, especially for beginners, if you play after the blunder, you can learn how your opponent takes advantage of that blunder. So then if you are able to capitalize on an opponent's blunder, you'll be more likely to know how to take advantage of the blunder after it happens. What to do afterwards. You pick off that extra piece and you're winning, but how do you checkmate? How do you proceed forward if your opponent doesn't give up? So, your opponent might just keep playing and playing, and you have to figure out how to take advantage of that blunder. So once you're ahead in material, just usually you want to, if you can't checkmate your opponent's king, start trading off material pieces. You want to trade off pieces and then use your extra piece to help promote a pawn. Now, your opponent who's behind in pieces will want to trade off a pawn, because if they get rid of all the pawns, well, then it's less likely that, there won't be any pawns to promote. And if it just comes down to where you have an extra bishop or one extra knight, well, that's not enough to checkmate in the end. All right, so what do we do here? The king moved forward. What do we have? The knight could check the king, but the queen could just capture. Well, the bishop could capture this pawn, but the knight could just capture. Well, I'm not seeing anything immediate here. Let's look at the material. We have 7 pawns versus 4, 5, 8. So they have all their pawns. We're behind by a pawn. Material wise, we have the bishop pair and a knight. They have 2 knights and a bishop. So they're just up by a pawn. But we have the bishop pair. Our bishop is under attack. So our king looks safe for the moment. Our pieces are all safe, but we have an unprotected bishop here, and this bishop is under attack. So our pawns, this pawn's under attack. It's protected by the bishop and the queen. How do we break through their defenses and go after them? Well, let's see. I don't know. This looks like another tricky one. Is there any crazy tactics? So we have to do a tactics check. Can this knight capture here? Well, they could just recapture, or they could capture our bishop. Then is there a follow-up? Do we just capture this pawn on f3 with our bishop that's under attack? Then the king or the knight could just capture, and I don't really see a follow-up. Do we capture this pawn on c2, drawing their queen away, and then go after their knight, but then they could swing their rook over here and pin that pawn to our queen. All right. Is there a way? I don't know. I'm just not seeing too much here. Check with this knight. So if the knight, all right, when you're doing tactics checks, you want to look for unprotected pieces and forcing moves. So one forcing move is to bring this knight up here and check. They have 3 options. Capture the attacker, block the attacker, which you can't block a knight, or run. The king can't run to these dark squares up here because of the bishop. He would have to run forward. Then maybe the knight could attack again up here. But if the knight moves here, it's probably most logical that the queen will just capture that knight. Well, then what do we do? Do we run our pawn up here? Attacking the queen again? The queen could just try and retreat. Then what do we do? I don't know. This is another tricky one. They are just giving me tough ones today. So, knight to d4 check. Queen captures. Pawn captures. What if they just capture the pawn? Well, then our rook could maybe come over here and attack. Then the queen, just runs back over here? Or here. And if we go here, I don't know. I'm just not seeing. Oh, okay. We attack with our bishop here. Then, if they capture with the queen, we fork the king and queen. All right. So that looks to be the way to go. Then we just fork. Then we capture their queen. All right. Well, I guess we needed to just do an overall tactics check and look for the forcing moves there, which anytime the king is under attack or the queen, those moves are very forcing and you need to do some extra calculation on those moves. Okay, so let's see. Number 30 was keep playing after the blunder to learn. Now I have another one here. Number 31 is manage time wisely. So that's definitely important to manage your time. As I learned yesterday and in a lot of my games, when I'm running out of time and then I'm trying to rush in the end game, mistakes are more likely to happen, especially blunders. Okay, I'll do a quick review of these because they're very important. Just remember, feel free to leave comments. How do you try to avoid blunders? Do you have a routine? What has helped you in the past to avoid blunders? I encourage you to leave a comment with this information because it might help a lot of chess players out there who are struggling with blunders and having blunder problems. One comment from the right person could really help them out a lot and change their chess game and help them avoid a lot of mistakes. All right, so number 1 was identify threats and check for forcing moves. Number 2, do a tactics check, especially look for unprotected pieces. Number 3 was don't assume. So don't assume that your opponent made a good move or set a trap. They might have just blundered. And don't assume that the position is calm and nothing's going on, or you could fall into a blunder. Number 4, calculate and avoid instinctual moves. So don't just make a quick, fast move by instinct. Do a little bit of calculation. That'll help you avoid some blunders. Number 5, look for opponent's best response. So before you make your move, ask yourself, once I move here, what is going to be my opponent's best response to my move? And that could help avoid a blunder. Number 6, do tactics puzzles and checkmate problems. So just doing those constantly, on a regular basis will help you improve your tactics and avoid blunders as well. Number 7, learn defense. So just remember, offense is good, but don't play so much offense that you ignore what your opponent's doing and you fall into a counterattack. Number 8, safety check. So before you move, do a safety check. Look for unprotected pieces, but a good way to start is king, pieces, and pawns. Ask yourself, is your king safe? Is your pieces safe? Are your pieces safe? And are your pawns safe? And then you can look at your opponent's king, pieces, and pawns. All right, so number 9, play longer games and avoid blitz games. So if you play long, slower games, that'll help you, especially if you're trying to get into a routine, like a move routine that will help you avoid blunders. You can start with slower games so you have plenty of time to learn your routine, and then you can slowly speed it up over time, before you get back to playing faster games. All right, so number 10, visualize the position after your move. So before you move, think about where you want to move and what piece you're moving. And before you move that piece, ask yourself, okay, once I move there, visualize what the position is going to look like after that move and see if everything is still safe after that move. What changed in the position? Are you still safe after you make that move? And if it looks like everything is going to be good, then you can go ahead and make the move on the board. All right. Number 11, ask why the opponent made that move. Very important. Every time your opponent makes a move, ask why they did it. Usually they'll have a reason behind the move they're making, and it could contain a hidden threat. You never know. You have to ask why they made that move and try and look at it a little bit and calculate, and hopefully that will help you avoid problems. All right, number 12, analyze your games afterwards. Very important. If you analyze your games afterwards, it'll help you find out what you did wrong. Number 13, review blunder screenshots. So, a good training tool, I guess, is to look at any important position that you want to remember for the future. Maybe take a picture of it with your phone. And then you could have a little file of photos with very important different positions in your past games, whether it's blunders you want to avoid in the future, tactics you want to learn, strategy, or openings, end games. You could take a picture and then you just review those little positions so they're slowly burnt into your memory, and hopefully that'll help you improve that way. All right, number 14, develop a move routine. So that you'll just have to figure out what move routine works for you. Maybe do the safety check, checking your king, your pieces and pawns, then check your opponent's king, pieces and pawns. Visualize what the position will look like after you make the move, see what might change. All right, number 15, check candidate square safety. So that's very important. Before you move a piece to a square, make sure that square is going to be safe for that piece and not cause a blunder where you just move it to a square and it's captured for free. Number 16, improve your overall chess. So that's a pretty easy one. Well, not easy, but a pretty obvious one. The better you get in chess, the more your game improves overall. The less likely you are to make blunders as often. All right. Number 17, don't play tired. You're more likely to make mistakes if you're tired. Number 18, warm up before the game with puzzles or play a quick computer game. So definitely do some tactics puzzles, and maybe easier ones, because you don't want to tire yourself out on tactics problems before the game, but just do some basic problems to warm you up. Number 19, play more or play less. So the more you play, the more it'll help you improve as you get more experience. But you can fall into the trap of playing too much, and sometimes you need a break every now and then. All right. Number 20, focus, concentrate, and avoid distractions. Definitely important. Focusing on the game. Don't get distracted and lose your concentration, and that will definitely help you avoid as many mistakes and play a little better. Number 21, stay calm. You definitely don't want to play when you're frustrated and angry, but if you do get frustrated, especially after a blunder, try and calm yourself and just stop what you're doing. Take a few seconds or a minute break if you can, depending on the time, and just refocus, try and calm yourself, and you'll be less likely to make more mistakes. And who knows, you might be able to pull out a draw or save the game from a loss. All right, so number 22, pressure is only in your mind. So just remember, there can be a lot of pressure in a game, especially if you're in a tournament, but the pressure is only so strong as you let it be in your mind. So if you can try and not let the pressure get to you, I know that can be difficult, but with time and practice, maybe you can take deep breaths and try and calm yourself and lessen the pressure of the game. So 23, don't relax too early in a one position. So very important in a one or drawn position. Don't relax till it's over. And that'll help you avoid blunders. And I know that from experience. So 24, stay positive and in a good mood. So you're more likely to play better if you just stay positive, keep a good mood and have fun. It'll just, it'll be more fun for you playing that game, but you'll be less likely to play bad moves. 25, double check important moves, especially when exchanges are involved. So that's very important. Double check important moves. When you feel there's a turning point in the game and the whole game position is about to change, that might be a good time to take a good look at the position, spend a little extra time calculating, especially if you think, oh, I'm about to win this game. Well, if you're going to win, the game will probably end early, so you might as well use a little bit of extra time just to double check and make sure that everything works out. All right. 26, don't underestimate or overestimate your opponent. So if you're playing a higher rated player and they just give you a piece, don't assume that it's some hidden trap. They might have just blundered. But do make sure to calculate, just to make sure. And also with a lower rated opponent, don't think, oh, this game should be easy because they're a lot lower rated. You never know. They might have a good day and you could have a bad day. So just focus and concentrate and try and play the position on the board and not the opponent so much. Number 26, that was don't underestimate or overestimate your opponent. 27, exercise. Good physical health can definitely help you play better, help you think more clearly, gets more oxygen to your brain, and your brain will be less foggy and will be in a better mindset to think more clearly while you're playing chess. 28, don't relax in the opening or calm positions. So especially in the opening, you have to look at every move, ask why your opponent made that move, and that could help you avoid opening surprises. And especially in a boring position where it looks boring and calm, watch out because there could be an unexpected tactic. All right, number 29, calculate one move deeper. So go ahead and calculate one move deeper, and you might be surprised that one extra move could make all the difference. And especially it'll help you figure out if your tactical sequence will work or not. You might calculate one move deeper and then find an in-between move or an unexpected check that changes the position. And number 30, keep playing after the blunder to learn. So, if you blunder, try and calm yourself, and you're probably going to be angry, but just calm down and just play on with as much resistance as you can, because about 30% of the time you may be able to pull out a draw, or prevent a loss. And you never know when that might happen. Your opponent might think, oh, this game's won now, and then they could blunder and you could end up winning. So, definitely play on after your blunder to learn how your opponent proceeds and goes on to win once you blunder. Because then if you play an opponent and they blunder, well, that'll help you figure out how to win against them in the future. All right, so now I have one more, manage your time wisely. So that definitely helps. Try not to spend too much time on a certain move, unless it's a very important move. You kind of have to learn that as you play. But, that's difficult in blitz games, very fast time controls. So maybe play longer games to help you avoid blunders and get a better routine down for your future games. And then once you get more proficient and faster at your routine, then you can go back to those faster games and hopefully be able to just instantly go through your routine quicker and avoid blunders. All right, I know that video was long, so if you stuck around the whole way through, I thank you. And remember to leave comments. I'm really interested in what you do to avoid blunders. If you've had a blunder issue in the past, what did you do to help fix it? And I encourage you to leave comments because you never know who might watch this and read the comments, and your comment could help a lot of people to play better and avoid blunders in the future. So thank you for watching. Feel free to like and subscribe to support the channel. Once again, leave comments or suggestions and any requests for future chess video content. Thank you for watching and have a super chess day.